Alright, so just a quick intro to this video. I'm not going to make a full video with the Greg Doucette situation because it's basically done. I accept his apology, and that's about all. I recorded this video before this entire situation. I've just been dying to get it out, but it's been tough responding to all the messages. I just want to thank everyone for their support, etc., and enjoy the video.
What's up, y'all? So today we're talking about 12 golden era exercises, some old school bodybuilding movements that you just don't see very much anymore. For whatever reason, good or bad, mostly bad, they have fallen out of favor, and you just don't see them very much anymore. First one are dumbbell pullovers. I have never seen this being done in person. In over 6 years of working out, I have never seen another human being do these. And even in other commercial gyms, it seems like they are just not very popular, which is a shame because they are an amazing upper body movement. I did a full video already. You can check it out up there. But basically, this is going to work the lats, long head of the triceps, the chest, the abdominals, and a common belief back then was that you could expand the rib cage by doing these. It's going to work the serratus and just overall lend itself to a bigger, wider torso. And I think there is something to that claim. Definitely start light with this one. No need to go super heavy at first, but this is a good way to get that range of motion, this shoulder flexion range of motion. A lot of people are at their desk all day, on computers, on phones, and therefore they don't really have this range of motion. And so if you say to yourself, oh, I don't have the flexibility or mobility to do this, this is a good way to develop that range of motion. Next up, we have hack squats and sissy squats. Now, I don't mean on a machine, although those are absolutely fantastic as well. I mean doing them with a barbell. So you're doing hack squats with a barbell on the ground behind you. This form of deadlifting is extremely quad dominant. Now, some people find that it might bother their knees, but again, start out light. In all likelihood, your knees can adapt over time. Just make sure that your knees are not wobbling back and forth, you are controlling the weight at all times, and you are starting light for higher reps. Don't max out on hack squats or hack deadlifts. That is not a smart idea if you have not trained this movement before. Same thing with sissy squats, a very quad dominant type of squat, no glute involved at all, and the golden era bodybuilders, big glutes were not really a thing. They wanted more leg development rather than glutes, and therefore the sissy squat was a very popular movement because it is more of a quad isolation type of squat. Next up, we have the Ahhnold dumbbell press. So instead of doing a typical shoulder press where you're just going like this, you actually bring the dumbbell down in front to get extra range of motion. You get more of a stretch on this front delt, and it's also much better for traps because you have to sort of rotate as you go back, which is going to be much better for the traps, the rhomboids, and you get a lot more just general back involvement. Yes, you will have to reduce the weight, but if you're doing this for a muscle building movement, that might actually be a better thing. Plus, a lot of people find that it's actually easier on the shoulder joint itself. Next up, we have the Anderson squat. Now, I did a full video on these as well. Absolutely fantastic. They are like pause squats on steroids. So instead of just going down and pausing and then coming back up, you are starting from that bottom position. This makes the movement much more difficult because not only are you not getting that bounce, you are not getting a feeling for the weight before you actually squat it. And so you have to really focus on your positioning and on exploding upwards and using the legs. And these actually work my legs a lot more with less weight. And you can actually get really, really good at these. You can also alter the height, so you're starting a little bit higher, and it's also a good form of overload. Normally, quarter squats can be a little bit rough on the knees for a lot of people, but if you do them Anderson style, not bouncing out of the bottom position, they are much more forgiving. Next up, we have wide grip pull-ups. Now, you don't see these very much anymore. A lot of people gravitate towards machines, towards pull-downs, and that is a shame because wide grip pull-ups really do have some unique benefits. They work the sort of mid traps and lower traps a little bit more, it seems, because you have to sort of squeeze down, especially if you keep your chest up in the bottom position. They also seem to work the teres major a little bit more, again, because you're in this sort of flared out position and it's a greater moment arm for that area. It might be a little bit less lats, but in terms of the upper outer back, that teres major, they are absolutely fantastic. Arnold did these, Franco Columbu did these. Almost all of the old school guys did these wide grip pull-ups. And I think using a neutral grip is a good idea for some work, and an underhand chin-up grip as well. but you should include all if you can in your training. Next up, we have deadlifts, specifically deficit deadlifts. Now, I know what you're thinking, Geoff, people still deadlift nowadays. Yes, but not enough people, god damn it. I think this is going to be one of the best overall ways to stimulate muscle growth, works a huge amount of muscle. No, it might not be specifically targeting or isolating any area, but that's a good thing because you want the most bang for your buck as possible. And adding a deficit just makes things that much more difficult. The quads have to drive through a larger range of motion. The back might have to get in a slightly compromised angle.
Oh my God!
You have to learn what positions you can get in. Now, this is not going to be for everyone, but I think everyone can do this movement if you progress gradually, reasonably, and intelligently. Don't just max out the first day. Progress with reps with sub-maximal sets. Don't overdo it. This is not a movement where you do 10 sets. Just a few sets here and there can go a long way. But it's going to put meat on your erectors, your lats, your traps. Anyone who says deadlifting doesn't work the back is just a complete fraud and a sham at this point. But also, yes, it's going to work your glutes, your hamstrings, and your entire body, pretty much. Next up, we have behind the neck work. So behind the neck pressing, behind...
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Behind the neck pull downs, even behind the neck chins I've seen in old school programs. And
You are fired.
to be perfectly honest, in the majority of old school programs, from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, into the 70s, the behind the neck press was a staple. In Arnold Schwarzenegger's big six exercises that he did, one of them was the behind the neck press. So if it's in Arnold Schwarzenegger's top 6 exercises that he was using in a program, it's definitely worth including in a lot of people's programs. Now, the thing is, if you're on your phone all day, or you're at a computer all day, I'm at my computer 12 or 14 hours a day, I can understand where you might not be able to get into this behind the neck position. But that doesn't mean it's a bad exercise. It means you are a bad person. Now, one thing I've heard is that pressing from the front has all the benefits of pressing to the back and there's less risk. I'm not so sure about that. If that was true, is everyone from that era just an idiot? Was Arnold an idiot and he could have just been pressing from the front? Like, oh, I'll just press from the front. Why didn't I think of that? No, because it is better in some ways. You do get more side delt activation, more front delt activation in a lot of cases, and you reduce the involvement of the upper chest. So I think there is value in this exercise. You just sort of have to play things by ear. If it feels extremely uncomfortable, you don't feel stable in that position, it's probably not an exercise for you. But if you feel comfortable, you feel fine, there's no like grinding sensations. If you're doing the exercise and it's like, it sounds like a chainsaw when you're doing the movement, well, maybe listen to your body and maybe it's not the right movement for you. It might be later if you improve your mobility. You know, if you're trying to over press and you're like this, no, not going to happen. You have to be able to keep that chest up position, which again, a lot of people can't do because they don't spend any time in that position. Next up, we have squats. Now, again, I know what you're thinking. Geoff, people do squats in gyms all the time. Do they though? Not this way they don't. I'm talking about 20 rep breathing squats. This is where you put around your 10 rep max on the bar, maybe 8 rep max if you're getting really feisty like I did in this set that I'll show you here. But you put your 8 to 10 rep max on the bar and you do a bunch of reps. You do 20 reps with your 8 or your 10 rep max. Now, before you whip out your calculator and say, Geoff, that's impossible.
Me fail English? That's impossible.
Well, it is possible, but you have to rest between a lot of the reps. So you get to 8 or 10, and then things slow down a lot. You have to take deep breaths in between each rep, and every rep is near failure. Every rep feels like you're gonna die. You do the rep, it's a grinder, and you're standing there, and you're just trembling. You're just shaking like a leaf on a tree in a hurricane, and you're just trying to stand there and not die, not fall down. And every rep feels like the last rep. But deep down, you know that you could stop at any time, but if you stop, it's on you. It's not the exercise, it's not the movement, it's you giving up. And so this 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 minutes is absolute hell. It's metabolically demanding, stimulates the appetite like nothing else, and honestly, it is horrible. I've had dreams about 20 rep squats, where it was tough last time, and now I have to add weight to the bar. And you're just like, you get butterflies in your stomach, you just dread it. Just the feeling before a set is like, you're going to put yourself through hell. And it's horrible. But it fucking works. And honestly, any other rep range cannot compare to this. A 1 rep max, cake in comparison. Just a complete breeze. Your 5x5, get out of here. Even a set of 20 all out with a lighter weight and continuous has a completely different feeling. This kind of rest pause, super high intensity, technically beyond failure, but not beyond technical failure, hopefully, is different. That shit hits different. It is not the same. Next up, we have cheat curls. Now, slightly cheated or perhaps drastically cheated curls back then were kind of the norm. Okay, a lot of people treated it as a full body exercise. It wasn't just an isolation movement where you're trying to focus on the biceps. They would control the eccentric, but they would get after it on the concentric. I mean, if you see Arnold do curls, nowadays he would be vilified. Even if he was a professional bodybuilder, people would be like, this guy trains like an absolute idiot. He's going to snap his shit up, etc., etc., etc. And if you see people do cheat curls nowadays, they get some shit for it. They really do. Now, 9B, we have concentration curls, which are sort of paradoxical. You have cheat curls, but then these guys were also doing concentration curls, where you really focus on isolating the muscle. And these guys, in a lot of cases, were all over the place, but it all made sense. You overload the muscle with the cheat curls, you overload that eccentric, you are stimulating mTOR, you are developing muscle through a different pathway, then you're really focusing on the mind-muscle connection, that peak contraction, really getting after it in terms of the metabolic stress, etc. So they sort of realized that there are multiple ways to stimulate muscle growth, and there's not just one exercise or one way that you have to do things. Multiple ways are often better. Next up, we have the French press, which is the overhead tricep movement with both arms. You don't see that much overhead tricep work anymore. A lot of people do it with cables, which are actually my preferred way, but you don't see very much with the free weights, which I think in a lot of cases is an oversight, because I think that long head is going to be the best way to to develop the triceps. And again, often I think this is a mobility issue. People, do overhead work, but they've never actually been in this position because they're always in this position. They're always like, eh. So I think in a lot of cases, again, start light. And this is often a good way to improve your mobility. That's what people don't realize. They're like, oh, I need mobility work. Lifting is the mobility work. It is literally the best way to improve your mobility. Plus, you get jacked in the process. Next up, we have T-bar rows. Now, these are going to be great for the lats, the traps, erectors as well. And sometimes I write these in programs, and then people send me a machine where it's like your chest is supported and you don't actually have to support yourself. And they're like, is this a good alternative? And I'm like, kind of, but not really. But then fine, it's okay, because your goals are not really hardcore anyway, so it's okay. But I think if you want maximal results, T-bar rowing with just a normal bar, you stick an end of the barbell in the corner, maybe put a towel around there so it doesn't break anything in the corner, like a mirror, which I definitely did not do one time. Hopefully the gym didn't find out about it in this definitely hypothetical situation. Anyway, this can be just a great way to overload the back. I wouldn't do it extremely cheated, although I definitely have in the past, like using 120 kilos or something on one end and just really absolutely getting after it. I think a little bit more control is good. At the same time, if you're being incredibly strict, I think in a lot of cases you might be limiting your progress. So you need a sort of happy middle ground between incredibly strict and just absolutely flailing and using, all lower back, etc. So there can be a middle ground where there's a little bit of a rhythm to it, a little bit of, momentum and cheat, but you're still working on the muscles that you want to target. Plus, for the brachialis, this sort of like muscle in between the biceps and the triceps, it's going to be really good for that. Because it has a neutral grip, it's going to be a lot more brachialis and a little bit less biceps. Plus, obviously, again, it's working essentially the entire back. Finally, number 12, we have Olympic weightlifting. Now, I don't do very much Olympic weightlifting. I think the learning curve is quite long and you don't get a huge amount of benefit, but there's no denying that a ton of guys back then did Olympic weightlifting on a very regular basis. Arnold did it. I think Sergio Oliva did it. Just, they were super common. You know, it was more common that people did it than didn't do it. And I think especially for the traps, you know, the back as a whole, overall athleticism, hip development, quad development, leg development, these are all really, really good exercises. Plus, back then, they were not just doing the snatch and the clean and jerk, they were also doing the clean and press, which is obviously a very, very good shoulder and triceps developer. So I would say if you are considering Olympic weightlifting, give it a shot. See if you take to it, see if you have the mobility for it, see if you just prefer it, if you like it, if you enjoy it. If not, no need to include it, but if you do, it can have benefits. All right, that's all for this video. Make sure to like the video if you liked the video. If you disliked it, well, I guess you can dislike it. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already for some very... Why would you do that to yourself? That's a very strange reason. Why would you not be subscribed to my channel? Anyway, turn those notifications on, etc., and I will see you in the next video. Peace.